Welcome to another session of the web meetings that we are conducting for some time. All of us are stuck with this COVID-19 pandemic, and the purpose of we coming together, eChai and the AIC-LMCP Foundation, is to actually keep updated on the things happening in the ecosystem for the students, the startups, and other ecosystem enthusiasts, in specifically in the area of pharmaceutical and healthcare. So, to brief about AIC-LMCP Foundation, this is an Atal Incubation Centre which is hosted by LM College of Pharmacy, and it is supported by NITI Aayog. So, this is a sector-specific incubation center where we are supporting startups from their idea stage to getting it to market and supporting their various needs, right from offering them the office spaces, laboratory, state-of-the-art laboratory facilities, till taking them through the funding options and getting it to the market, and also on the way helping for protecting their intellectual properties and so on and so forth. So, as most of you know, that 11th May was the National Technology Day, and keeping that in mind, uh, we are trying to emphasize the importance of technology in building the nation, and this web meeting is around that, especially to understand one of the very promising technologies, that is artificial intelligence and its role in healthcare. So today we have fascinating panelists. So we have founders of the tech startups, Ajit Deshpande from Rises Analytics, Pune, and Dolar Adesara from Mtag Innovations, Ahmedabad. And we also have Akash Doshi, who is director of Strauss Healthcare. So these guys have already, they are in the front, they have already deployed artificial intelligence in the solutions for the healthcare sector. So with this brief, I pass on to Jatin.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Srinivas sir. If this would have been a physical event, I would have asked everybody to clap together so it keeps the momentum up. So couple of things. Whenever you are not speaking, you can mute yourself so it doesn't create the noise. We are anyways recording this session, which will be uploaded on YouTube. And another thing it would be, if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. So we'll take up those questions. And for all the panelists and other experts who are not panelists, but they would have a good opinion to share, probably you can engage in the chat. So in addition to the video discussions, chat will become a good knowledge base for everybody. And with this, one by one, I'll ask each of the speakers to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the discussion. So keep an eye on the chat and keep yourself mute. And then probably towards the second half of the session, we will have some of you to speak up. So we have Ajit. So Ajit, the idea is that 4 or 5 minutes briefly about your work, and right now how are you using AI in healthcare? The broader perspective of yours. Yes, Ajit.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everybody. And would like to definitely thank the incubator. And glad that NITI Aayog and Atal Innovation Mission highlighted us. We are into artificial intelligence based solution for healthcare. And we are doing the diagnostic support related work and pandemic modeling. These are the two focus areas currently we have. Our product is being implemented at Tata Memorial Cancer Hospital, Mumbai, and one of the hospitals in Raipur. Also, we are working for one of the state governments for pandemic modeling. And then we are expanding into US and other territories. And myself, my name is Ajit Deshpande. I'm having about 25 years of experience in the industry. We started this startup journey about 3 years back, and we dabble into a couple of other areas. Then we gather the team. So currently, my team is about 15 people, and 3 or 4 of them, they were my colleagues from my Tata consultancy services. They are having the background in this high performance computing and the deep learning and AI stuff. And my experience is in the large team for big data analytics in the organizations like HSBC, TCS, SAS. I was in California for 5 years, and currently I live in Pune and pretty much pinned down to home. So good, but it is good working. We are happy. We are getting great opportunity to serve the country and looking for the business opportunities. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Ajit, that was a wonderful introduction that you did, and seeing the diverse set of experiences that you have, it would be great to listen your insights. Akash, if you can briefly introduce about your work. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Akash Doshi. I am a physician by training and moved into healthcare technology a few years back. My company is called Strauss Healthcare and we are in Ahmedabad right now. We build electronic health record solutions and technology solutions for healthcare delivery for various organizations in healthcare. We use AI very much right now and more so these days for clinical decision support systems, which means we analyze lots and lots of data in server databases where there is a lot of clinical information. And we use that to help doctors come to a faster diagnosis, make better decisions for prescription, and things like that. So this is where we use AI a lot in our current solutions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Akash. Dolar is building a very promising company, and every time he presents, a lot of people show greater interest in him. Dolar, if you can just briefly introduce about your work and how you are using AI in your work. Yeah.
Thank you, Jatin. Good morning, guys. My name is Dolar Adesara. The problem that we are currently working on solving is basically to build an integrity management platform. So one of the primary use cases where we primarily implement artificial intelligence rests on capturing the real-time supply chain data and leveraging that information to develop insights to predict what may happen in the future from the healthcare perspective and making sure how hospitals and all the other relevant healthcare bodies can leverage that data to provide efficient care and provide probable outpatient outcomes, be it delivering sensitive medicines, vaccines, blood plasma, or organs for transplant. At any point in time, anything that touches the healthcare supply chain point, that is where our technology comes in that helps you track the integrity of the elements that move into the supply chain. We are based out of Ahmedabad, and right now we are primarily into the research mode. So we kind of, in the last 3 years, we shifted gears. We went into the market, had a product, and then dug down, went back, rolled back to basically understanding that we probably didn't have efficient data capturing measures into the system. And then currently we again went back, and right now we're doing research with IIT Bombay to work on developing efficient data capturing devices.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dolar. So as the tradition goes, Srinivas sir, you start with the questions, and then friends, if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. Srinivas sir.
Sure. To see the outset, I mean, we see there is a diverse audience. So we have a lot of students who are from pharma institutes, as well as some early entrepreneurs in this sector who may not have quite familiar with the artificial intelligence concept per se, and then how it is applied in healthcare. So if I can request Ajit to just set the context, like what's basically is AI and how it is in current scenario it has been applied in this pandemic situation. Ajit.
Yeah, thanks, Srinivas sir. I'm just sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
you can make it full. Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Just to quickly set the context in next 5 to 7 minutes. So basically, how are you? So hopefully you are doing fine, and stay at home. Still, in most of the places all over the world, it is flipping back and forth. So as you know, basically this virus originated somewhere in China. There is some controversy. People say it's in US and other places. But well, this is a reality, and we have to face it. We got a good opportunity. The global concerns are there. The possibility of relapse, like many of the Chinese traveler came back to the country and they again found infected. There is a threat to the global economy, and in Maharashtra, they found about 76% asymptomatic cases. That means the symptoms were not seen when they tested. After 8 to 10 days, they found corona positive. And then there are other possibilities of the disease. In terms of tracking the trend, we have to see how exactly this is impacting the various parameters like reproduction numbers and how much testing the country is doing, how much traceability is doing. The US claim that they are doing the maximum testing, and India is still in the same zone as per global world is concerned. But still, the number of deaths and the impacted patients, this is still a concern all over the world. India, I think the main challenge is the how much the healthcare system can handle. So the number of physicians and community worker, nurses, we are seeing that if one hospital get locked down, then what is the impact on that city? That's a biggest concern. And from the global index perspective, we are somewhere in the middle, about 50% of at number 50. So role of AI in fighting COVID. So again a cartoon. So it spreads to cough and other mechanism to touch and stuff. We got Dr. Jamkar also on the call, who was a dean medicine. So during the other discussion, he can throw more light on such things. And coming to the little bit on the artificial intelligence, just for sake of the people who are very new to the area. Basically, artificial intelligence for us, the notion is which mimics the human behavior. That's what we call as AI. And subpart is machine learning. It is a subset. It does more statistical computing and it mimics the machine. And deep learning is more of how the child learns. And there are several techniques they have designed. Because when the kid is very small, you don't teach what is a cat, but still the boy or girl is able to recognize that from various angles. For AI, we have to train the data with a very large amount of data. For example, the largest data set currently is on the ImageNet, which is used by Facebook and Google and other people. The similar product they are using, they collected the data of all the faces and other products. So the people on the hurry, yes, it's all trying to mimic the behavior starting with a kid. A good example is if you teach that supercomputer to play the chess, it will play chess to the chess player and beat the world champion. But if you ask the computer to play Ludo, again you have to retrain it. You can beat that computer. So whole thing remains on the how much is the data available and how you train the models. So machine learning, the pattern recognition, statistical learning, natural language processing, computer vision. So these are various part of when we say artificial intelligence, and when we want to see something moving, that is called robotics. And most of the stuff what we do, we are all on the software side. And there is a basic difference in the traditional programming where your input and the program you get the output. Here the input and you get I would call it not an output, but you ask the question to that data, and the output is a program, so which you can use forever once the model is trained. And this is how we get the label. We get the label data, then we do the data cleansing, rationalization, apply the algorithm, and then we are able to label it properly using the machine. So this is the basic notions of the artificial intelligence and deep learning related technology. But interestingly, these technologies are not new. Now they're coming to the power. So very briefly, I can so it can forecast the outbreaks, can diagnose, find the virus patterns. Drones are very important. Robotics and the drug discovery, which used to take a long time now. And since you are from the drug discovery kind of background, some people, so they would understand the importance of these data-driven techniques. And then there are chatbots. Many countries are deploying chatbots and very complex supercomputing related work to find the vaccines that is being going on. And when you look at the pipeline of a AI system, I don't want to go to too much detail, just want to visually connect you. As Dr. Srinivas, he pointed out, this is how we get the medical imaging data. We apply DenseNet and define the lung patterns in the lung, outside the lung, and then we apply various techniques. And we try to see this is a lung cancer patient, this is a COVID patient, categorization, classification. That's how it works. And again, in the process flow, you have a lot of data coming in their medical system. Then we analyze it and try to mimic the doctor. And it helps the doctor. It doesn't really replaces the doctor. That is the basic notion. So the main thing here is why doctors and other people, whosoever we are replacing, why they should accept it. So there is a new technique. This is a concern with AI, and this is a newest technique called explainable AI. So the explainable AI actually helps to make sure the results are convinced, and if not convinced, they're able to calibrate the model. And there are some very good sites available. I would encourage all to visit those. This is Smidwar. His site is very good. How the worldwide scientific collaboration is happening. And there are very good sites also, COVID-19 MedTech. So they are complete dashboard on various aspects they have created. So I will stop here and over to you, Srinivas sir.
Awesome. Sure. Thank you so much. Yes, Srinivas sir. You wanted to ask any question? I have follow-up questions for Akash and Dolar.
Go ahead.
Srinivas.
Go ahead.
Okay, Akash, I wanted to ask you. So you've been very proponent of promoting digitalization within hospitals and the healthcare startups that you mentor. So what is your observation that before coronavirus situation, people were accepting certain solutions in a certain way? In last 2 months, a lot of acceptance has come within the hospitals or the doctors. So what is the acceleration that you are seeing? That earlier people were resistant to it, but now that they will be open to this kind of solution. So if you can share something on that zone. Akash.
Yeah, interesting. I definitely think there has been a lot of shift in terms of acceptance of digital tech, whether that is AI or anything digital in healthcare. Healthcare traditionally has been a segment which was very slow in adopting business process automation, which is in some sense digital technologies for themselves. A simple example that I would give to explain this acceleration is that before COVID, lots of companies tried telemedicine. They still do. However, a lot of well-known doctors, whenever you go to them and say a company has telemedicine solution, the response is, "What will I do with telemedicine? It is unethical. I don't want to do it. I will not write a prescription. This, that, lots of things." Incidentally, in the last 1 month, I have gotten calls from almost every of our client saying that, "Can you launch telemedicine in the current platform so that we can use it and consult our patients who are at home?" So the tables have turned. Everyone has reached out to us. In fact, I just right now before this call, I got off a call from one other hospital that said that we want to launch it. What do we do? How do we do it? Things like that. So I think there is a definite acceleration, and a lot of perspectives will change moving forward.
Awesome. Dolar, I had a similar kind of a question. So, there are people who believe in AI and they would want to implement AI in their hospital or healthcare systems. But sometimes you will face a resistance from the people. So, from your experience, how do you tackle that? Like people who absolutely like you and they would open all the doors for you, and then suddenly you later roadblock. So, like if you can share something on those lines.
Yeah. So as in something similar also happened with us on our journey. Now, at any point in time, when we kind of started, we met a lot of people in this industry in terms of all the touch points that we could probably think of, be it regulatory touch points, be it manufacturers, be it normal retailers who primarily deal with such kind of distribution in the healthcare ecosystem. A lot of these people probably had a lot of apprehensions in terms of that how would it actually impact my bottom line. You see, the biggest gap in our industry that we primarily saw was primarily an education gap, because even the most educated guy today would probably buy a drug as if he's buying Coca-Cola, meaning that when you're buying a Coca-Cola, you primarily check three things. A, if it is cold or not, B, if it is expired or not, and C, if it is Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, right? When it comes to prescription medicines that are supposed to be maintained under a certain temperature range, people also do the same thing. They check whether it's the same drug or not. They check whether it is cold or not. They check whether it is basically expired or not. But apart from that, a Coca-Cola can be kept outside for 14 hours, and 14 hours is probably most of the time, a drug cannot be the only way, right? And at any point in time, no consumer asks such questions that how can you tell me what is the history of this particular drug and whether it's safe for consumption or not? Forget the expiry thing. Now, right now, the government, at any point in time, right now, government discussions are opening up to draft policies that make sure that even these kind of regulations are imparted. Because right now, there's no regulation that controls these components. So, again, these pharmaceutical companies and policymakers are now open to adopting technology like ours that will probably help them effectively track and trace these drugs and also make sure if the integrity of these drugs have been void or not. So before COVID, I would probably say that they were super slow in moving when it comes to these policies and implementing such solutions. Now, at least it seems that they're pretty much excited about it. But let's see how it goes. It's too early to say.
Okay, awesome. Friends, if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat, or I'll just pick up some of the questions from. So there is a question. What are the inputs, including skills, hardware, and data, and process requirements for building an AI-based solution?
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. What are the critical inputs, including skills? It could be hardware, data, and process requirements for building an AI-based solution.
Okay, so I think that's like a pretty broad question, but now in this case, it primarily depends on the kind of problems that you're trying to solve. So, for example, when you think of artificial intelligence in healthcare, right? Now, you may probably imagine computers generating medical diagnosis in milliseconds, or you can imagine using AI for drug discovery, or you can probably be something of the beat that is primarily supply chain that we are trying to solve. So each one of these probably has different sets of skill sets required to address these problems that you probably need to decide which direction you want to go. Because if you're probably going in, for example, the radiology example that Ajit gave, right, you would probably need to have a lot of understanding in deep vision technologies versus our supply chain component, where probably you need to understand hardware and you also need to understand predictive and linear regression models, because we primarily don't do anything with image recognition and stuff like that. So that depends on which object or which component of the healthcare ecosystem that you want to tackle.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dolar. Ajit, there is a question for you. Are you using many sources of medical data? Any real-time signatures like ECG, EEG, etc.?
In fact, yes, there is a small presentation. We'll do it as per Professor Srinivasa's guidance. Yes, we are using radiology imaging data that includes X-ray, CT scan, all kind of modalities. In medical word, it is called modality. Yes, we are using that.
Okay, Akash, there is a question for you based on telemedicine is now increasingly accepted, as said by Dr. Doshi. Why there is so much resistance by pharmacists in accepting e-pharmacy? Akash, what is your take on that?
Jatin, just a minute.
Yeah, interesting question. The thing is, I think the telemedicine is something which is going to be used by doctors, whereas in this case, I think the e-pharmacy is probably not meant for the pharmacists themselves. It is kind of trying to bypass the local pharmacists and doing deliveries directly. That is my understanding of the question and this whole problem area. So in some sense, what these bigger e-pharmacy is like 1 mg, and others are trying to do is have huge warehouses and then try and negotiate wholesale rates for lots of medicines. Which is why I think local pharmacists may see a problem. If the question is whether local pharmacists can take up technology in their local shops to do it, and I think a lot of pharmacy stores actually use some sort of basic technology. But e-pharmacies probably are trying to bypass them, which is why I think there is resistance there.
Okay, awesome. Ajit, Akash, and Dolar, probably you can check out the chat, but there are a few more questions are coming up based on what you are answering. So probably you can engage them over there. I wanted to ask one question. So there are a lot of students and there are a lot of early stage startups who would want to explore this. And this is very fascinating, right? Very glamorous. AI, healthcare, every conference talks about it. And you are considered among the top of the pyramid. But what are the boring work, the grind that you have to go through? That those probably who are aware about the glamorous work, but if you build a solution, your entire anything you can share on that. So what is it, Ajit? Briefly.
Sure. That's a good question. So we have gone through that pain, and I think we are still going through the pain because in Hindi they call there, right? There, DERA, there. I would like data. First is a data. So getting hold of this medical data is a gigantic task. It's not easy, very difficult. There are a lot of regulatory around it. In India also, there is something like medical legal. In US, HL7, the patient anonymous data you can only use, and that is in very small number. Annotated data is another challenge. So you won't get a volume of data wherein the data scientist would look for 1 million data points to train a model in normal case. And then there are techniques to use with lesser data. And the second is the explainable, which I already told. Like half of the work in AI is what exactly you're trying to do is you are to replacing the human being with a machine. That means the human being should be involved, expert should be involved, and he should be convinced. In that our case, it is medical doctor and medical professionals. Half of the work goes to them. Skill set is very rare, not very easy to get hold of, right? And third one is regulatory. Regulatory in every country really don't know what is the regulatory around AI. Though FDA USA has declared one AI software as a device. For devices, there is a lot of regulatory, but India, we are stuck with regulatory PCNDT. In China, they are using pulmonary X-ray as one of the modalities to check the patients in COVID. In India, nobody is doing it because just the fear of PCNDT Act. So such a good modality, we are not using it. And the last one is the adoption. The adoption of AI, as the speakers already pointed out, they say, no, we are already doing, I'm getting my billing, why I need this? Okay, and when they come under stress condition, now in our case, the main concern is coming from, the request is coming from the people who are wearing PPE, those right, personal protective equipment. They're inside it, sweats, 8 hours, 10 hours. I'm telling if this technology is used, you can reduce it to say 6 hours about that. But they are thinking earlier, a year back or so, they were thinking we are going to replace a doctor and jobs will be taken away. So adoption of the AI is a big challenge. Sorry, slightly long answer, but glad. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jayan Dave Chakradarji, thank you so much for asking those questions. I'll just move on to the next question. Astan Karya has asked, what are the few sites that provide, since somebody asked the question, that question went away. What are the few sites that provide information about AI in computer-assisted diagnosis in healthcare? Any good resources? Dolar, Akash, Ajit, you can mention. Yes. I'll just add on to that. Ajit, Akash, Akash, you want to respond to that?
Honestly, I'm not sure of the question type, as in what type of information is are you looking for? Provide information, whether it is about modeling, whether it is about databases, things like that. If it is databases, I think Ajit ji did a good.
Akash, Akshan has asked research information. That is the primary use case that he is looking at.
Honestly, I'm not sure if there is research information. You could look at PubMed. So if you just want researches, there is lots of data available out there in bigger publication areas like PubMed and things like that. You could take up those, download lots of data from there. There were some resources that Ajit ji also identified. You could get databases from there. So I think as pandemics evolve or even the world evolves, different databases are set up which you can use.
Okay. So probably there are a lot of questions. So probably the questions you are not able to answer by speaking over here. You can use the chat to answer some of those questions. Hemant has asked the question. Hemant Jha, how can security industry be related to AI, or how can we use AI as a tool in security industry? So probably for a healthcare, data privacy, data security is a very important aspect. So any interesting things that you observed in that, or anything you can share? Dolar, you want to share something on that?
Yeah, I think from our perspective in terms of security, since we primarily deal with supply chain data, we don't have a lot of PII. So PII primarily means personally identifiable information. So if there's like any application that deals with any PII information, there are a lot of different elements that you probably need to take a look at. So you would probably want to hash these information out, and you would probably want to hash the identifiers and not really have something that is exactly related to identifying each one of these individuals in the chain. So, for example, if you've got an EHR application that ties down to an Aadhaar card of a user, right, or a healthcare ID, now you don't want that ID to be circulating across the entire spectrum, so you would probably want to mask it. Now, depending on the use case and the kind of data that you have, for example, if you've got a genetic data, you would probably want to encrypt that data and make sure that whatever kind of technologies that you're using, you would probably want to work on leveraging encrypted data. So that is one of the use cases that we also try to evaluate, that at any point in time in the healthcare industry, a lot of this data, if you're basically running the plain data files without encrypting it, at any point in time, you're basically vulnerable to that particular data being exposed. So, A, how can you leverage hashing algorithms to basically mask out the PI information, and B, the other relevant information, be it the genetic code or be it all the other information that is primarily privy to the consumer himself, be it his medical records or anything. How can you basically help hospitals and other elements also use that data, share it in the ecosystem without it being tied down or violating any personally identifiable, violating any privacy related concerns that the user has. So there are different kinds of techniques that you can probably implement, but then a lot goes on the use case.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We'll take question for another 10 minutes. Sarfraz has asked, in medical field, the most critical is false prediction. How to deal with false positive cases during predictive modeling? Ajit, you want to take up this up? And a brief answer, yes.
Yeah, I think when we talk to the MS doctors, when they study, they are very familiar with this terminology, false positive, false negative. And what we do is we do the confusion matrix. We compare AI with the doctor. And what happens is basically false negative and false positive, all this notion is something which the algorithm finds and something which algorithm doesn't find. How do you know what it doesn't find? So only way to cross check is there are some cross checking algorithm, and when you are in the field, the doctor tells, oh, this patient had COVID, but your system did not detect it. If I am claiming my accuracy is say 98%, so or my recall rate is this much. So there are more statistical measures. So in that case, what they do is we'll go back to the patient, find out, okay, because of other tests done, this patient has a disease. And then we again go back to the algorithm, tune it, find out why exactly we could not find it, or they're okay with this kind of accuracies. So there are both ways. It is a bit complex answer. Finding the false positive is not really easy from the system perspective because we don't know what we could not find. How do you know the accuracy? The accuracy is basic notion of accuracy is actual versus predicted. So the actual versus predicted, and that is done on the mostly done on the past data. 70% data is used for the data model training, 20% is used to test the model. That's how it is done. But when it put on the live system, there will be always some exception, something goes wrong. So you will not be able to find it. But some techniques are there. We are already using some techniques to make sure there are lesser false positive.
Okay. Awesome. Keshav has asked a very good question. In country like India, where majority of the people live in villages, they don't have access to this modern infrastructure or AI-based solutions. So how can we improve, and what can be major steps to reach villages and they get access to these AI and healthcare solutions? Akash, you want to pick this up, or Ajit, Dolar?
Sure. We have had the opportunity of working with a couple of non-profits, some of the social impact projects as well, to take healthcare technology to rural areas. The thing is, to reach out to rural areas and for AI or even technology to reach to rural areas, it always has to be on shoulders of someone. It has to be a government, it has to be a non-profit, it has to be some other social impact organization that can take it up there. Primarily because infrastructure is a big problem. Internet, satellites, this, that, network, various other things. What we work on, so I'll give an example of how this can reach out to rural areas, is neonatal mortality is a big problem. Very young kids dying before the age of 1. And India is not doing very well in terms of the global index. So what we did was we did a lot of research to understand where exactly is the problem. We used some AI to do some diagnostic workflows, which is again a clinical decision support. So when these health workers go to rural areas and check these small babies in their homes, they use this clinical decision support to identify at-risk babies earlier or faster than they would normally without technology. So this is one example. But in a nutshell, it always has to be through government programs, social enterprises, non-profits, etc.
Okay. So if I ask you a question, keeping in mind the current COVID-19 pandemic, can AI help us in prevention of such situation in future?
Yes.
Two things. Can AI solve this? And another, can it prevent the next one?
So I think I'll just put 2 points on the previous question. So we studied the Japanese market, we studied US market for this diagnostic imaging. In Japan, the waiting time for to see a normal CT scan is about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, there are less number of doctors, aging population. So no point in putting every time India in that perspective. US is the same. The salaries of radiologists were very high, and there also the normal CT scan and MRI, it would take two weeks waiting time. Here, in the city, I can go next hour and get it checked. Okay, so that is one. Second is adoption of the technology is a very different ball game, and big players are there. I remember when I was in US, I was the first one to use Yahoo Maps, and the white people there, local people there used to use the books. Okay, I adopted the technology because I know nothing about the roads. I used to have the cheat sheet. The point is Google Maps is completely machine learning AI driven, and it can now point out every small place in Pune, in Ahmedabad, wherever you are. Otherwise, you have to 2 3 years back, 5 years back, we have to ask the local Pantele wala, where is this? Now you don't need to ask. Okay, so the adoption of technology do happen. It won't tell you like you have been adopted. So all the people in India are using this Google Maps and you name it, what are the social apps. How do you put this more useful app to the case? That is a big challenge. Technologists has to really think hard. And to answer the question on the COVID, currently, see the COVID, this is not completely understood. Whatever we are seeing is just very early results. The COVID hasn't seen the complete cycle, 1 year cycle or spread or nothing we have seen. We have just seen the beginning of it. We don't know whether it will come again or not. And all those things are more scientific studies where there is no past data also available for COVID specific. We are using the data from other diseases like infectious diseases, USCCD. In India also they are using the Statistica related Department of Statistics come to the trend information. So we really don't know how it will perform next.
Okay. I'll move on to the next question, which is very important because there are some students like if newly BPharm college graduate students is interesting in technology like AI, ML, how can they make a career on that? So these three people are making their life around it and building businesses. So that is one. But any like ideas that you can share with the students who are really interested in making a career? One by one, Dolar, what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, I can probably add something. So see, if you're basically from this particular background, the good thing that you probably bring on table is basically a domain expertise in this particular field. So for example, if you're a doctor or you're basically a B.Pharm grad or an M.Pharm grad, at any point in time, you're at least bringing some domain expertise from that particular field. Now, if you want to make you would probably want to make a career out of it. You can probably make a career out of it by in two phases. A, you can probably be an early adopter of any AI ML based technologies and you can figure out use cases and implement it in your own domain. Or B, you can probably figure out problems in your domain and probably partner up or learn AI ML related techniques and try and go solve those problems yourself. Nonetheless, at any point in time, it is super important to understand the problems that basically are faced by your industry, and then how can you effectively solve them. AI and ML are just tools and techniques that help you solve them. At any point in time, how to go about it. If your problem statement is pretty robust enough, you'd easily able to find solutions to try and solve that.
Okay, awesome. Ajit, your take on that, what kind of careers that students can make out of?
Yeah, so definitely I will definitely look at the academicians and the experts there. But my thing is, some of my competitors, they are actually MD doctors and they have written this medical software. So in that sense, AI is not a traditional software where you, as in you write a Java program, you create a website. It's not like that. You have to have a complete understanding of the data. When our data scientists work on it, he loads the entire data characteristic in his own brain. And then he codes the model, then he see how it can be tuned, so on and so forth. So my point is, so don't feel you are a student of, say, pharmacy. I tried with one architecture student and amazing results. This technology is very different. It is not like a traditional software. You need to understand the data and build the models. What helps you? Because we don't know what exactly your model is. I'm completely from the software background. I have no background in any domain, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacist. I have to learn that. So for you, that is advantage. You are definitely at the advantage position. So it will be, and there's several, GitHub open source tutorials, free things available. So you can pick up from there.
Yeah. Awesome. Ajit, Akash, and Dolar, there are a lot of questions probably you can answer in the chat. We will move on to the next part of our agenda to talk about AI beyond COVID-19 in healthcare. Like now that there is adoption, now that there is a stronger focus. Srinivas, sir, you want to add something to this context? Yeah.
So one part we wanted to look at is how COVID-19 pandemic, I mean, how AI is been helping in addressing this. And secondly, as everybody is gearing up, so what is the future like beyond COVID-19? How AI and ML can help the healthcare sector? Because we see a lot of information reports saying that AI is growing by leaps and bounds, and it will have definitely a major role in this. Now we're talking about social distancing, we're talking about safe practices and all, even telemedicine, what Akash was mentioning. So can you just take us through what do you think the near future or longer future for AI in healthcare looks like? Maybe Ajit, like you already have built a solution. So what is that solution and what is beyond COVID it can run? And then Dolar, you can also add, and Akash also can add.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will just share the screen. I can take 5 to 6 minutes of your time. Quickly show you. You're able to see my screen.
Yes.
So as Srinivas sir was talking about, we are into this diagnostic automation, and this assists the doctors. Okay, this assists the doctor. And in terms of critical diseases and chronic diseases are basically your asthma kind of stuff and TB. And there are several diseases we don't get fixed that quickly. And we do the automatic detection of disease progression analysis and prediction. 3 layers. This is the standard workflow in any hospital. Patient walks in, gets CT scan, MRI, X-ray done, and then it goes to the doctor who treats you. So what we do is we pick up the data from their database and do a validation, put it back, and then the doctor gets benefit. That there a lot of automation saves their time and bring the efficiency. These are some of the results when we compare our models with, say, COVID, non-COVID related stuff, and we benchmark against University of Waterloo models. So our results are much better. That's what I'm trying to point out. And data sets are used from the Chinese data set, US data sets, so on and so forth. And the Indian data sets are being validated at the hospitals. So these are the bounding boxes. On the top, the radiologist marks it. On the bottom, our software has marked it. And the accuracy level you can see is about 96% accurate. In middle, there was nothing marked by them, but we are able to find even a smaller part because AI will not miss it. Doctor might have ignored it because for them it may not be that important. And this is a difference analysis. This patient was having some exposure to radiation like in cancer. And within 7 months, he got the infection and being treated. So you see the change in this bounding box size. That's what we show them. This is the product. And then what we claim is we can definitely, this is a preventive technology. We can reduce the mortality rate. and we can scan a lot of X-rays within few minutes, thousands of X-rays we can do, and reduce the stress on the doctor. Currently, some of the doctors, when I talk to them, who are specifically facing the COVID patients, there's tremendous pressure on them. So definitely we can reduce the pressure. Their working hours will be reduced when they use such product, and it can spread across the country and world and help the patient to get safer technology, touch-free technology. That is. So moving to the other one quickly is the pandemic modeling. We did it for one of the state government. We did this predictions on 6th of April. And when we looked at the actual numbers, these numbers are related to the infection rate and mortality rate and so on and so forth. And they are exactly matching up to 90%. So these models are very, very accurately we have built. Very complex mathematical modeling, simulation. Can we increase the social distancing by say 1 week? What will happen? If you reduce it by 1 week, that is called simulation. And the predictive analytics, month ahead, 1 week ahead, 2 months ahead, that kind of stuff. And some of the papers we have been writing, and I will share with Srinivas sir later on this, like how we can help the drug discovery. These are more on the research papers we are working on, and these are some genomic sequence related work. And again, both of these papers are using some high-end deep learning and machine learning algorithms. And the application of COVID and what goes beyond. So there are several things in the market. I will pass it on to other of my colleagues. And but the challenge is what we see is the flattening of the curve. When will it will happen? When the lockdown will be removed? Does the climate change impact or not impact? For example, population density. So there are no definitive answers to this, though there are early results. For example, Mumbai is densely populated. Is there any correlation between dense population and the mortality rate, dense population and the recovery rate? All those things I haven't proved because this is not gone through all the cycle. Okay, the disease is still in progress. Just like you are from the pharmacy, some of you are from the pharmacy background. Now people are talking about some medicines, and those medicines may be available after some time. That time we don't know what will be the status of the disease. And lesser data available that I discussed is a big problem in future. What exactly it will happen if there is lesser data that the data scientists are still figuring out. Especially the medical data is very little available in the public to train the models. But what I feel is the AI has the ability to think like humans do, but at a large scale and much faster without getting bored or tired. The possibility of the AI application made us in critical decision making. There are endless possibilities for us. So I will just stop here. So very high level, quick stuff. Thanks. Back to Srinivas.
Awesome. This was very useful, Ajit. Akash, you want to share your thoughts on that? Akash.
Jatin, yeah. Could you redo the brief for me, please?
Srinivas sir.
Yeah. Akash, we are just like now trying to figure out what next, like beyond COVID, how AI would kind of help the entire healthcare sector, as we see that there is a trend of more and more adoption of AI, and the solutions are really serving the purpose.
Interesting. So, although I typically, or our company or solutions typically work within the healthcare delivery organization, which is hospitals and other organizations, but I definitely see a very big contribution of AI in terms of drug discovery, which has not happened, which is currently happening in terms of innovation around the world, but which is needed. What during COVID people will realize is that time is of utmost importance for drug companies to go through hundreds of thousands of molecules, find out whether they're working, not working, and come up with newer combinations. I think using AI in drug discovery can be a huge leap when it comes to finding newer drugs. The reason why we say this is that when COVID happens, everyone is waiting for a vaccine to happen. Everyone is waiting for a miracle to happen so that the world can bounce back. And that cannot happen if we follow the traditional routes of just finding newer molecules the way we did 20 years ago. And this is where I see AI playing a big role. I also see AI playing a big role in terms of reducing the times to do clinical trials for these companies. After drug discovery has happened, when clinical trials happen, that also take their own sweet time. How do digital technologies reach out to patients remotely? How do these trials optimize data that is collected so that trials can be completed faster? How can data from existing data sets be collected so that they can also find out the most probable sites which will have success in clinical trials? So I also see a lot of AI happening in terms of clinical trials to speed up the time from when a drug is discovered until the drug hits the market. This is my biggest area of interest moving forward in terms of AI in healthcare.
Okay, and Dolar, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think right now where we've reached because of COVID-19, it would probably be considered as an inflection point where a lot of solutions would probably be openly accepted in the ecosystem, and the industry stakeholders would also be probably open to more innovative ideas. As Ajit mentioned, the possibilities are endless. You just have to think of a use case, and a lot of different solutions can be tried to achieve those use cases. But a lot of times, as in historically, what I had observed was primarily the adoption problem, where a lot of people are hesitant. But right now, after this, I'm pretty sure there'll be a big shift, big mind shift. And a lot of solutions would probably be easily adopted.
Okay, awesome. Last 5-6 minutes of this session, so probably you can give one or two bullet point answers. What are the challenges in validation and deployment of AI-based solutions? Like, if you were to give a bullet points, what could those be? Ajit?
Yeah, as I was talking in the beginning, validation is an important step in this medical world. And these are some of the reference suggestions or the systems are provided by conferences like Radiology Conference of North America, RSNA, and ICMR, etc. So they have provided the methodology to how to validate it. Basically, it validates the AI model against alerted doctor. Alerted doctor knows the patient history. Unalerted doctor, the patient, he doesn't know the patient history, he just looks at the, say, X-ray, just like system, and gives the results. And then they are compared, and then the confusion matrix is drawn. So it's just one example, detailed example, how exactly these models are validated. And the other thing, pandemic modeling, we were like stuck. We don't know whether our results are correct or not. The government has to accept it or reject it. It's a decision maker's choice. But when 1 month passed, then we found that our results were more than 90% correct. So for something you have to really wait in that time series really to event to happen, because nobody has seen the past data for pandemic modeling, right? For the other cases, yes, the data is available, and the prospective study and the historical studies are possible. That's how we test and validate our results.
Okay. Mehul, there are a few more questions about probably next question, probably Dolar or Akash you can answer. Mehul has asked, he mentioned it as just a thought, but it's a very genuine question, Mehul. Don't you think that the more reliance on the AI platform in healthcare profession or in pharmaceutical research will lead to mitigate the critical thinking of the personnel? Akash, we must be asked this question quite a lot. Yes.
Yeah. This also pertains to what Ajit is doing in terms of, say, radiology, AI in radiology, and various other things. You are right. It may mitigate critical thinking. Where I have a different approach or perspective to this. AI in healthcare is not to. So people usually say this word, which Ajit ji also said, that AI is not to replace doctors. That is the first thing. But when that happens, the second thing people start thinking about is that AI is your friend. So AI will do a lot of thinking for you and you will not have to do thinking, which is again wrong. When we say that AI is your friend or it will be a companion to doctors and all, that's not right. What AI is trying to do is just figure out what are the most common negative cases, which is something which is already there for sure, where you don't have to think critically. Now, once removed, you have more time to think critically on some of the outlier cases that are already there within the healthcare system and for which not a lot of doctors have time. So, which is what is the example, let's say, for radiology, when you are looking at hundreds of X-rays, you have to think critically for every X-ray. But if you can find or figure out a way where you can remove the normal X-rays with even 98% sensitivity and specificity or whatever, you can dedicate a lot of your time for the remaining X-rays to think critically on them. So this is where I see the perspective from my end.
Okay, awesome. Dolar, your bullet point answers to this. What are the challenges in validation and deployment of AI-based solutions? If you were to bullet point.
So from my experience, what I primarily think is that before we can even think about using or building a solution, we primarily need to be super sure about the data that we're primarily going to use to train these models. And a lot of times, because of the way the industry is placed, some solutions will probably never even have the desired data required to solve those problems. So you probably need to even rather than just even being behind the screen building the software, you'd probably also need to work towards collecting or storing that data and then going on and making those use cases or solutions. So at any point in time, the ability to be sure that the data you're using or leveraging is extremely good. That's something that is super critical for you to be able to build a credible solution.
Okay, awesome. The last part of it. So think of this webinar as a mini university, and you've been given a chance to deliver a convocation speech. What would be your message for the audience, like students, startups, and aspiring innovators? Yes, Ajit, one line convocation speech for this audience for completing this webinar. What is your message to them in this context?
So, we are not the professors. Anyway, what I would say is just stay positive. There are several problems you can solve. Whether you're a student or not, doesn't matter. You look at the problem, try to solve it. Technology is available, or try to just implement the technology, whatever is available to you. You know, and solve the problem. That is most important.
Okay. Dolar?
Yeah. Well, if it's a convocation speech, one message, then that should probably be you would learn more from failures than whatever successes you get, because probably it will give you an opportunity to build yourself in a much better way. And so don't be afraid of going out and trying like a number of things. Probably 99 won't work, but it's okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Akash, your message for the audience?
Yeah, I think very short terms, remain curious and think critically.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Srinivas, if you can summarize the entire session. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Ajit, Dolar, and Akash for giving those insights, because you have been practicing AI for some time in healthcare, and this is really kind of a curious sector people are trying to think of adopting or venturing into. So thank you for bringing different perspectives in terms of what you need, what skill set you need to think of. That some of the take-home messages is best is to identify the problem well. So that gives you probably 50% of your solution. And then understanding the AI and what the AI can do to facilitate healthcare advancements. So thanks a lot for all three of you to bring those perspective. We actually were trying to see application of AI in three different segments, and that's what you three are representing. So it was definitely good for audience to look at what actually, say for example, pandemic modeling, what you explained, Ajit, or what Dolar was talking about, supply chain management and real time drug integrity looking at, and Akash's view on the clinical trial and AI's help in clinical expediting the clinical trials and reaching the drug faster to the patients. I think these are some of the things we could take out from this webinar. And I know this is a very vast subject, but we're trying to touch related to healthcare, and definitely we may have a lot of scope to build understanding around this. So thanks once again, and Jatin, over to you.
We can take a conference selfie if all of us can open up your cameras. And Mahendra, we can take a screenshot. Yes. So we started on time and finishing on time. So that was awesome. Just 10 more seconds and we'll take a click. So
Jatin,
if you are able to.
you take a click because I can't see the whole screen.
Okay, I'll just take a screenshot.
Okay.
Okay, we'll wait for 10 seconds, and those who are able to open their cameras, awesome. As we'll use AI to put your photos in your square boxes. Okay, one by one. Awesome. So you have a good number of people who have opened up their camera. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And Mahendra, over to you now. You have the keys for our auditorium. So
Thank you
tell
so much. I'm closing the session. Thank you.
Acha,
Thank you,
you are
everyone.
shutting down the auditorium. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.